much time as we can. Oh, sorry, something popped through. It's being live streamed. There we go. So I want to make sure I take as little of time as me talking and hear from those that we've invited to be here to share with you guys today. So the title of our Lunch and Learn today is Community, Discipleship, and Mission. So again, for those of you, I introduced myself, but for those of you that are watching maybe on Facebook, my name is Josh. I've been with YWAM San Francisco specifically since 2011. My wife and I actually came here to do one of their discipleship training schools, which we're going to kind of unpack what does that even mean in a few minutes. But if you hear me say DTS or Discipleship Training School, they're the same thing. We love our acronyms in YWAM. I don't know if you've ever heard Tim say that, but we just love acronyms. And so if you hear me say DTS, I'm talking about our training schools. So for me, my journey and my wife's journey into missions actually started by doing one of the discipleship training schools here in San Francisco. And so it's a 6-month, the one that we were running at the time was a 6-month discipleship training school where you basically spend 12 weeks living here in San Francisco in community. You're eating your meals together, you're doing worship together. We had speakers that actually came in for anywhere from either 11 to 12 weeks teaching on different topics that are, I would say for us, the most important to our Christian faith, the character and nature of God, recognizing or hearing the voice of God, missions, how do you love your neighbor? How do you love your city? How to study the Bible? Just again, a variety of topics that we would invite speakers and teachers to come in and impart to our DTS students. And so we had speakers coming in imparting to us on our DTS for those first 12 weeks. And then after the first 12 weeks of the school, we went overseas. So part of the DTS that we did, there's also an overseas portion. We go out and we actually live on mission. And so my wife and I got to experience doing ministry in Turkey and in Italy. And it was an amazing experience. And we knew on our DTS that God had called us in the full-time ministry. And so it was a really easy yes for us after doing our DTS to come back and be a part of what God was doing here in San Francisco. So I myself have been staffing and leading DTSs since 2012. So did my DTS in 2011 and started staffing DTSs in 2012. So again, the 6-month model that I just shared with you guys, the 12 weeks of living here, serving here, ministering here in the city of San Francisco, living in community, and then 12 weeks overseas, serving and ministering with some of our contacts overseas in varying capacities. Well, a couple years ago, I remember sitting with a friend, I believe it was on a Friday night, and he was asking me about the DTS. And so I was really excited. I get really excited. And sometimes I talk too fast when I get really excited. And I wanted to share with him about what is a DTS. And so I remember sharing with him and just watching his face light up. He got super excited, asking me questions, and we finished the conversation. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, "Man, Josh, that sounds really amazing. But I have a full-time job, and the 6-month model, it's full-time. I mean, you're going. There's not time for you to have a full-time or a part-time job because you're in it and you're going full speed. But it caught me when he said, I just don't feel like God has told me to quit my job, but I would really love to do something like this. And so it got me thinking and got our leadership team here thinking about, we're actually missing a demographic of disciples. And so that started us on this journey to pioneering a brand new model of DTS. So kind of putting the 6-month model DTS on to the proverbial back burner and then pioneering a brand new model that still had the structure and the nuts and bolts of the 6-month model, but stretched out over 11 months. And so the UCDTS was actually born out of this. And so with the UCDTS, the goal and the vision was to recruit full-time workers and not ministry workers. Ministry workers are great. And if they were working in ministry, we encourage them to be a part of it as well. But we were looking for working professionals and university students that were committed to the vocation or to the place that God had called them to be. And so our goal in creating this new model was to keep people in their workplace or their spheres of influence while offering, again, the meat and potatoes of the DTS. So this UCDTS or Urban Community DTS was born out of this. And so when I think about, again, before I jump in, I lost my train of thought, I apologize. Before I jump in, just want to share with you guys, if you know someone who is actually interested in knowing more about the DTS, feel free to, I think we can put this in the chat, but we'll give you a link to our webpage so you can take a look at our DTS webpage. You can email me. I'm going to be on afterwards, and maybe a few of the DTS participants will hang out if you guys have questions. If we do run out of time, I would love to stay on and hang out with you and actually hear you ask questions versus my voice droning on. So I'm going to jump in and introduce my dear friends that are here. Each of our friends that we introduce have gone through the UCDTS. And so we have Caitlin with us. And she's waving right now if you can see her. Caitlin Ng. We have Stephen Liu, who's with us today as well. And then we have Jaden Vanderhorn, who I just got to give a quick shout out to her. She's on the East Coast right now. She's actually on staff with us now here in San Francisco. And she's on the East Coast fundraising for her time here. So keep her in your prayers as she's on the East Coast, sharing the vision that God's given her to serve within DTS. So I'm going to jump into some questions. And if you guys have any questions yourselves, please feel free to pop them into the chat. And we'll do our best to answer them as we go along. So feel free to throw them in there because again, we love answering questions. So I'm going to start with Jaden, and then we'll kind of do it popcorn style. But Jaden, tell us why you personally did the UCDTS, and at the time, like, what was your job situation like?
Sure. Hi everyone. For me, so I had just completed a discipleship training course, which is an even shorter version of the Discipleship Training School. And I did an outreach in San Francisco. We were there for a week and just really was loving what God was doing there and just kind of felt called back. But for me, I'm like, I need to work. Like taking off 1 week was enough, was even a stretch. So I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to come back to serve here when I need a job and I can't necessarily do this full time. And then I heard about the Urban Community Discipleship Training School. And so after our outreach was done, flew back, sent my application like 2 days later, got accepted. And I was currently working as a front desk supervisor at a hotel. So I worked in the hotel industry, and so I was applying for jobs in San Francisco because I still needed to support myself while I was there. Kept getting a lot of no's, but still felt like that's where the Lord was calling me. So I flew to San Francisco, still didn't have a job. And then a few months after I was there, the Lord just really provided. The hotel was like a block away from our location in San Francisco, and just the environment was super, they were just great. They were very supportive. And but yeah, and I did this school because I wanted more. Like I just wanted to know more about God. There was just like this really deep hunger that I had to just learn more about him and how I can better serve like his children and his people. So.
That's good. Thank you for sharing, Jaden. Caitlin, would you share your thoughts in regards to that as well?
Yeah. How's it going, guys? It's nice to meet all of you. And I feel like my sentiment's going to sound very similar to Jaden, but I actually met Jaden while I was on my DTS and she was visiting San Francisco. So it's fun, all the different layers of this. But I, at the time, was working for Old Navy, the headquarters, which is here in San Francisco. And I was a designer, and I was 28, 29 at the time, and kind of like finally hitting my stride, like had moved down to my parents' house, had found like a solid home, found a solid career. Everything was kind of starting to fall into like traditional place. I had been leading youth ministry for like a decade at that point. And so also finding a stride there. But I mean, I'm sure, as most of you could probably relate to, at some point you kind of start getting an itch for more, as Jaden was alluding to. I was kind of entering a season of just like recognizing that, especially I think being in a youth minister role of like, I had hit kind of a limit of what I could teach and what I could share and what I knew. And I had been a Christian my whole life and just knew like as much as there was goodness in where I was at, there was so much more. And so the word expansion kind of became my anthem in my prayers, and it just repeated, and it became very evident that I just wanted more, and not necessarily to leave my life and to drop everything or to leave San Francisco, but I knew that God was just doing something really big and I wanted to be in on that. And so I had seen, I think it was on Instagram, the DTS being advertised, and like, as God does, it kind of aligned like verbiage wise exactly to my prayers and what I was anticipating. And like at the time it felt extremely silly and like, I can't do that. Like I just landed in a really secure spot. And as God does, he kind of proves you wrong in those scenarios when you think you know what's best for your life. And it all kind of just fell into place. So I did it in 2018 to 2019, and I did the almost 12 months. It was about 11 months long one. And I kept my job through the whole thing. So in terms of career, nothing changed. It was pretty much just moving on to the base and then participating in the UCDTS rhythms.
So before, Stephen, I want you to share in just a second, but before we turn the mic over to you, I love what Caitlin also said about moving into the tenderloin. And so for YWAM in general, we have a theology of going, which I love. YWAM, you know, the Great Commission, Matthew 28, go into the nations, make disciples. That'll always be a part of our DNA as a mission. But there's also this beautiful piece of loving where you live as well. And so we, again, have that theology of place while maintaining that theology of going. And so Caitlin, along with Jaden and along with Stephen, I don't want to steal Stephen's thunder, let him share a little bit about, you know, his journey into the DTS, but they left their apartments, they left their homes to move into the Tenderloin to live in community with one another, which I think is such a powerful piece. It's such a powerful part of the DTS, but also thinking about like, hey, I do have a career. Hey, I have kind of a trajectory for my life. I'm living in a space that feels like it's my own, and the willingness to give all of that up to be a part of this discipleship community is easier said than done. And so on that note, I want to turn it over to Stephen, and maybe Stephen, again, you can again tell us why you did this DTS. What were you doing at this time as well when you decided to apply for DTS?
Yeah, I had just started a year into my own law practice. Before that, I was at a bank, a local bank, as a legal counsel there. And so I have the family situation is my wife and I, and then we have three girls, 6, 4, and 3. So we were living in the East Bay, renting a house in the suburbs, and I was in my law practice, and was doing just fine. Yes. We had our third in 2018. We started to come. We got introduced to YWAM out here. We started coming to Thursday food pantry 6 months prior, and I had started my practice, so it was super busy, but also it was taking Sabbath Thursday. So I switched my Sabbath so that we would come Thursdays. We would just spend the day out at YWAM doing the food pantry with all our kids. And I didn't intend to come to DTS. We got to, Mary calls that 6 months as like a long due diligence that we did. And so that's kind of cool looking back. That's kind of what it was that we were able to like really develop relationships and get to know people at YWAM, and really, yeah, got to meet a lot of the DTS that Caitlin that was going on at the time. So we got to meet a lot of them during that time. Yeah, it's good that you have a word. I think my word for that time of coming into DTS is like refuge or rest. So it's interesting to come into Tenderloin. People don't think of it as a rest or refuge, but it was probably more for our family, coming from kind of intense work, coming from a pretty intense, like serving as we're a part of a house church. We're serving as I was serving as a co-pastor in Oakland, and then to be able to come here and not be serving in that way, but also just kind of like really like receiving. And so we think we're really fed.
That's awesome. Stephen, thank you for sharing. Just want to, real quick before I jump into another question, Jane, I know you didn't actually say this, but I was just thinking about the words that you guys shared. Caitlin, correct me if I'm wrong, but expansion was your word for that season. For Stephen, it was rest and refuge. And just even hearing part of Jaden's story being that faith and that trust to move across the United States from the East Coast to the West Coast without a job, and to trust God to provide for you. So these words that like God, again, gave you in these seasons of life and of the DTS, I think is just really amazing because they're all different. So it's just wonderful to hear. So thank you guys so much for sharing. Kind of continuing down the tracks, what was it like for you guys? And Steve, we'll start with you, my friend, if that's okay. What was it like balancing the UCTS and work?
Yeah, I think I was very blessed in one way that I had my own practice. It was something that even was, again, my wife, we were having Amelia, our third, right in the midst of, busyness. She was like, yeah, I think you're supposed to like go out on your own. It's like, what? Not have health insurance? Crazy. But then to see, like, look back and see, like, yeah, I had established a law practice a year in, and we did make an intentional choice to come to DTS, even though, the way that the schedule works is we're really working throughout the week, the rhythms in the morning, and really allowing us to go work during the day. It was only really the weekends. But it just, I think there's no other way to say it except for the fact that God had provided. I didn't know why it was open in practice. It was crazy. And then just to see, like, I didn't actively market throughout that time, and just really worked on that side of my faith to say that God really truly provides. Like where it ultimately lands is Him. There's this, oh yeah, I can have a lot of lip service to say that God provides, but ultimately, well, I'm still holding the boat down. But to really let that go, and I think that was learning a lot of that. So, I mean, to answer the question, how did I think I don't think there was any method. It was just living one day at a time. He did provide the phone. I simply answered the phone when my phone rang, and provided the service and spoke to the client as I would, and then just incorporating that into our rhythms here.
That's good. Thanks for sharing, Stephen. Jaden, what are your thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, I think just the way that the scheduling was set up with the UCDTS, because my job was from 9 to 5, and it just fit in really perfectly with our morning rhythms that we had, where we had breakfast and quiet time, and whether it was worship or other things in the morning. And it was really kind of a great way to start out the day and then going into work, because you just kind of felt rested and settled in with the Lord, and kind of bringing that into the workplace, which was really great for me, because working in a hotel can be very stressful. And yeah, so it was really nice to just kind of have like that really peaceful community start to the day, and then moving into my work time, and then coming back and like ending the day in that same capacity of in community with the Lord. And then just eating dinner and fellowshipping with each other. So for me, it was just such a great time in that. Yeah.
Awesome. Jane, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Caitlin, you got some additional thoughts, my friend, about balancing the UCDTS and work life?
Oh, I do. No, I mean, I would totally echo both of these guys. I think there's a way that God he just knows how to fit you into a schedule, even if you don't think it's going to work out, which sounds cliche, but living proof that it does happen. I would say there were definitely growing pains within. I think rhythm is such a huge theme of DTS. And so kind of just falling into that stride with the community and with your own schedule. And I think the cool part about our specific DTS was that we were all already, for the most part, living in the city. And so we had lives kind of somewhat established in a way. And so kind of incorporating your already established life into the life of a DTS definitely required some stretching and compromising. All things that, I mean, in the long run and in hindsight, I would say really helped and shaped just how I have perspective on how I walk through my day and my life. But in the moment and at the time, I would say it was definitely tricky. And, you know, there were days where like going into work and coming out of a teaching weekend that was maybe intense, or, you know, you're doing a lot of soul and heart and mind work throughout the week in a DTS, and bringing that into your 9 to 5, like, can be kind of taxing and kind of tricky. But that's kind of part of the fun with a DTS, is like learning how to incorporate those aspects also into the daily, which I think the UC DTS does a really great job, like Jaden talked about, as like I never once felt like my schedule was necessarily like shoved aside for DTS. It very much became like one life. So in that way, it was really great and a really cool test almost to see, like, moving out of a DTS, how that could continue on my own. But yeah, there were definitely still challenges, kind of bringing those two worlds together and not feeling super drained, but also so inspired at the same time to bring my learnings from DTS straight into the workplace.
That's really good. In fact, it kind of, I feel like, segues into just the next question, and that's like, how did the UCDTS make you see your work differently? Caitlin, you want to start us out with that one too, my friend, of how did it make you see your work differently? Yeah,
I had to learn real quick, and this was an ongoing thing for me in particular, I think, but it was definitely a shared experience for a lot of us in our specific cohort. When you live with missionaries for a season and then you go to your 9 to 5s, you could call it secular job, but I feel funny saying that, but just to put it into categories, I had to learn real quick, like, that what I was doing during the day and spending my time and energy on was no less of a calling, no less holy than what my YWAMers were doing on the base all day. And so I would come home as in the YWAM base at, like, I don't know, 6 p.m. every day. And they had just spent, you know, the day doing food pantry or serving our neighbors on the streets. And I had, you know, spent the day with people making 6 figures and drinking really expensive lattes and talking about selling jeans for $2. It was just such a different juxtaposition of a lifestyle. But I think what the DTS did really well was kind of drive home the fact that, like, I was doing God's work in those places, and by no means was it any less glorifying. And so I think that once I was able to kind of reposture myself and see that as my specific calling and mission field, like, it really impacted the way that I soaked in the teachings or my life at YWAM, because I knew that what I was like being fed was going to immediately be sowed, I guess you could say, in that space 5 days a week. And so it became this really precious thing that I felt like I had this beautiful responsibility to be God's light in that world. Yeah, I don't know if that answers it.
Well, yeah. In fact, as you were talking, Caitlin, and I don't want to butcher this, but I, coming out of our teaching weekends, I remember you sharing, you can call it water cooler talk or gathering around the place for people grab something to drink, talking about, well, I went to, what did you do this weekend? Well, I went to Sonoma, or I went hiking in East Bay. Caitlin, what did you do? Well, I learned about God's character and his nature this weekend, and how much he is for us and how much he loves us. And so just the conversations you could get into.
Yeah, that happens so many times, like every Monday morning. And I will say, like, Monday morning worship at YWAM felt like every time it felt like this, like, sending out. And I would like leave with this like extra pep of like, I'm being sent out to my workplace. And then I would get there and be like, how was your weekend? I'd be like, I learned about the Holy Spirit. And then like immediately like, all right, I got to back that up now. but yeah, it was just right in front of me.
That's awesome. Caitlin, thank you for sharing. Stephen, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. How did the UCTS make you see your work differently?
Yeah, Caitlin, that's really good. I think all of us probably can resonate in some way or another. The context is a little different. I have my own sole practice. So my interface is going to be with clients. That's like I don't have coworkers. It's just with clients. But also, I think through the process that it was like a roller coaster or different seasons. And I think it was so good. Ultimately, yes, I think it's the learning fast, but that's like you have different days, right? Like I go through phases like, oh, I'm like missionary out here. Like, what is this? All this is all secular. And I'm supposed to like, almost like throw out my license and be like, I'm a missionary, but it's kind of like a bait and switch with these clients. They're like, I'm just coming here to do my trust. I didn't come here to like be, share the gospel to me. So I think there was like a lot of like missteps or like, like I got to like walk through this and God has just been like very gracious and probably watches me and just, just so patient. But I think ultimately, yeah, it is this like marrying of this. What does this mean? Like, yeah, again, I think we put in quotes like the secular work versus, missionary work, and how do we contend with those things, and how really it's actually a blurring of those lines, or like breaking down some sort of like traditional idea of these like siloed roles. And I totally resonate with that. So for me, I think it was just like, going to the extreme on one side, the other side, and now because I still have my practice, and now I am staffing here. So it's very much like my lifestyle today, where I'm staff here, but I also have my private practice. I bring clients and sign documents on the base, and so I've got to see like this progression of moving into this space where I very much I'm much more comfortable with that, to kind of like straddle both sides, or also not actually blurring the lines, and where I'm very much like offering them some legal service, charge them the money, but also my sentence could very much go into like talking about my because it's not a ministry anymore, it's my life. So that's very natural. Where do you live? I live here. What? It's going to be natural. What the heck are you doing here? And I realized that sharing the gospel or evangelism is for me, and I think I could say for most, like I even see Jesus' life or see is when somebody's perplexed or they go, what? That's where you enter in the gospel. That's where you can evangelize. It's like, because it invites them to go, why you do that? And so if that means, missionaries that like drop everything in their, out of college or before college and raise support and come into the mission field, it causes people to go, why are you doing that? And in my context, it's, wait, you're a lawyer and you have 3 kids and you're in the 10th world. Why is that? that's the invitation. So I see that it's they're very much complement each other, and less and less. And I think each day that I'm confronted with, like, there's be a logistics issue, but each more and more I see them as kind of, it's less of a line.
Thank you, Stephen, for sharing, brother. Really appreciate it. And then Jaden, what about you, my dear friend?
Yeah, I kind of agree with both, Caitlin and Stephen. And I think for me, what was really cool was, moving into San Francisco, never had been here before, and starting this job. And so starting this job, they would always ask me, oh, I see that you moved from New York. Like, what brought you here? So it was a really cool invitation to just kind of talk about why I was there, about taking this school. And then even when working with my manager with my schedule, talking again about what I was doing. And yeah, they almost in a way became part of it. Because they already knew about it before I even officially kind of, got into it. And so that was really cool. And yeah, kind of similar to like Caitlin, when they would like ask, oh, how was your weekend? Or what did you do? And getting to talk about, oh, this is what I learned this weekend. And sometimes they'd be like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I want to know more. Or they were just really fascinated with what like we do there, and just working with, our friends on the street. And it was cool because one of my coworkers at the time, we were doing a like Christmas party for our friends on the street, and she actually came and served with us. She helped serve them food, she helped with cleanup, and so she got to step into, our world and kind of see like what we do and how we serve. And she really loved it and got really excited. And and then even within that, she was telling me that she also craved community. So seeing how I lived and what I was doing, she realized that's something that she wanted and she was craving for herself. And so it was really cool to be able to walk through that with her and talking about things and encouraging her to find community and like find a church. And so it was really cool to be able to kind of like what Stephen was saying, was like merge the two worlds. Because I think, I don't think there has to be lines or there has to be boundaries, but it can all be, it's all just the same thing, just in different capacities.
That's good.
Can I jump in, Josh? Because
please do.
like, because Jaden just like totally sparked all this stuff in my head. But like I completely resonate with Jaden, because like I felt like obligated to share with my work that I was going to start this DTS simultaneously as doing my job. And I was like, I'm going to take this leap of faith and expose myself. It felt like exposing myself in a way. And so had to share with my boss, had to share with my coworkers, like, hey, I'm signing up for this thing. And, they understand to a certain degree, but I think there is something really intriguing of like watching someone who, there's one thing of hearing that like I go to church, but to see someone who's actually going to take that extra step and move into somewhere like the Tenderloin, dedicate months and months to this specific lifestyle, if that's how you want to categorize it, and really take something seriously with their whole life, which I don't think you see as often these days. Like that, there was something really powerful in that. And because I didn't remove myself from work, that conversation could be ongoing. And so it was. And so Jaden reminded me of like my work wound up, we did like a whole clothing drive for the Ellis Room and our neighbors in the Tenderloin. And it was such a natural segue from our retail work. And it was like something that everyone really wanted to participate in. And I don't know if they understood where it was going, but it was, like you guys said, this inclusion that kind of started conversation and intrigue and sparked, if it could spark the smallest amount of curiosity and then my job was done.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Caitlin, I definitely agree with the exposure part, because there was just like no hiding at that point. And it's like, oh Lord, I came here to step out in faith and to learn more about you. And so that will continue also in my workplace, which can also be really scary and daunting, because then it's, I don't know what you're going to think of me or how you're going to see me. And, but I just stayed true to myself and ended up developing a lot of great friendships, and I'm still connected with a lot of my coworkers now. And yeah, so it's really cool.
That's awesome. And friends, I have so many questions that I want to ask, but I also want to be conscious of our time together. But just as I've been thinking about the things you guys are sharing, and just even thinking about, again, the title of our Lunch and Learn being centered around community, discipleship, and mission, living on mission. I think I'm going to try to fit two more questions very quickly in there. So as I'm formulating the question, just, we'll try to make them as succinct as possible, because I want to give a few minutes for questions from the Zoom community or even the Facebook community, if you guys have anything. But community obviously being a huge aspect of DTS, UCDTS, like it's a part of the DNA of the program. How did it help you guys as followers of Jesus? Like, how did living in community here in the Tenderloin help you guys as followers of Jesus? And let's start with, I'll put Mr. Liu on the spot. That's okay, Mr. Liu.
Yeah. In so many ways. I mean, I could say, the rhythms, you develop discipline, you get to, we get to expand, just in the teachings about hearing God. But I mean, I think, yeah, I think even more fundamental, and this just is God, right? It's not this program, it's not this. It's just his hand that he brought us here in the specific season of my life to even begin to explore these questions of saying, can you talk to God? And then crying out to him in such troubled times, experiencing in this time, dark night of the soul, daring to call out to him, cry out to him, being honest in that, and then him responding and hearing him and going through like such like troubled waters. And really the only thing that we do there is maybe a prompting, maybe a knowledge of like some sort of class that we took to say, like, can you trust in this moment to hold on to him tight? I mean, simply it was just holding on to him tighter.
I think we might have lost him. See if he comes back in a second here. Stephen, are you there, brother?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we lost you. You froze there for a second.
Yeah, I just think like secondarily DTS, secondarily Tenderloin, secondarily. But I think I only say that because of just true encounter with him. But I would say very much God has provided DTS. Very much having Josh and having Chris, having Emily, this wonderful staff, having the teachers and being in the Tenderloin. Very much like God provided that. But I think if you want to say like I have the like deeper relationship with God, like there's knowing Jesus more, like there's nothing more precious than that. And there's nothing. And if this helped, and if that's what prompted us to like really actually see his face and not be obsessed about the temporal, not even obsessed about the homeless, not even obsessed about the broken and helpless and harassed, but to just see him. And then he changes us. Yes, of course. Then we get to have compassion and the helpless and harassed and community and care. So yeah, I don't know if that answers it, but it's just, yeah. I mean, the end result was, yeah. I mean, he set it up where I can have, he chased after me.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing your process, Stephen. This is good. Yeah. So, I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts, Caitlin, on, again, how did living in community and attending the DTS for you help you as a follower of Jesus?
Yeah. I think my roommate's actually on this call from DTS, so you don't have to say anything, Flo, but that's my community following me 2 years later, just to support. Yeah, I really lucked out and was blessed by like an amazing cohort. There was only 6 of us and then the staff, but it was small but mighty, and it was exactly what I needed at the time. I think additionally to my prayer of expansion was a prayer for some solid partners along the way, and I didn't know exactly what that looked like. I had come from a really tight-knit community in my church life, and so I knew it in one dimension, but I think something really beautiful about DTS and YWAM in general, as you'll find, is like people are so different, and they all like live together and do life together from many different cultures and denominations, and they make it work. And it's so beautiful to see it kind of coexisting right in front of you and around you. And so I think, you know, you're very much going through this like journey with God, with Jesus, trying to understand yourself in the context of God, but you get to do it with these really awesome people that are also going through something very similar and processing it completely differently. And yet that totally helps you see the breadth and width of how God interacts with us. And so I don't think my experience would have been nearly as rich without the people in my group and the staff. And like, I can't separate DTS from those people. Like, they're very much a part of the experience. And, you know, I mean, I think it would, for sure, there's going to be tension because you're doing life together and you get tired and you get hungry and it gets hard. It's natural. It's what family does. So that's also a part of it. I don't want to completely sugarcoat it. Some days you just want to be left alone, and you can't be because you're living with people in very close quarters. And I would say, like, San Francisco DTSs, like, I feel like you actually get even more space maybe than a typical DTS. Like, it actually felt a little more spacious than other schools I've done. And you still inevitably like want some alone time, or so that's definitely there. But I mean, you can't measure just how precious and valuable it is to have partners that not only are like supporting you and walking with you, but also holding you accountable to, like, are you still in this? How are you doing? You know, you talked about a struggle. I'm going to follow up with you. Like, there are things like that are hard, and yet you grow so much from.
That's good. Kayla, thank you for sharing. That's good. And Jaden, what about you, my friend? We're rounding third base here. What are your thoughts? We're heading home.
Yeah. Yeah, I think pretty similar to Caitlin. And I think for me too, like, right before I started with YWAM, I was really in and out of the church. And so stepping into this was me making my choice of, like, I'm picking a side almost. And it's like, okay, Lord, I'm going to take this route. And I didn't realize how hungry and thirsty I was for community. And especially for a community that is so loving, regardless of, like, if you mess up, because I know I did lots of times. But to be met with love and support and not shame and condemnation with what was normalized for me, really kind of shifted how I even saw myself. And yeah, to be able to have, you know, like what Caitlin was talking about, like that accountability of, hey, I know we talked about this, or you had mentioned this, like, I wanted to follow up. Or, hey, you look a little off today, like, is everything okay? And so, yeah, it really turned into a family. And yeah, just really grateful for the people, and each and every person is very different and had a different piece to bring into it, which was really cool, because something that I could hear is very different than what someone else hears. And so bringing those two, being able to like share things together, and just hearing what other people had heard or feeling, and it was really cool in that way, just to see how God is moving in each and every one of our lives, even though we're all together, but how differently the Lord is impacting each of our lives.
Good. That's good. Thank you for sharing. I think we always are stressing, and probably over and over and over again, just the importance and the value of community. That I personally don't believe that we can do life well without community around us. And I love that, because it's one of the many facets of the DTS. And so I love discipleship. I love community. I love exploring what it looks like to live on mission where God has called us. And it's been fun to be a part of. I've had the privilege and blessing to be a part of Caitlin's school and Florence's school and Stephen's school and Jaden's school. And just knowing my own story, like DTS has radically impacted my life and my wife's life. It was our pulling into full-time ministry, and it's been an amazing ride. The first almost 9 years or so. What is it? About 9 years in the mission. So we got about 5 to 7 minutes left. I wanted to give some space for our attendees to ask questions. If you guys have questions about the DTS specifically, if you want to, compliment Caitlin on her beautiful apartment or her wonderful hair, you could do that. I wanted to leave the floor open for you guys to ask questions, and then I'll share just a few announcements that I'm really excited about, and then we'll close up in prayer. And it's also okay if there's no immediate questions, that's fine as well. Cool. Okay. What about and this could be like either Caitlin, you guys don't all three need to answer this, but you guys have any final thoughts, like just in regards to DTS or community or discipleship, anything that you would like to share with us as a community as we close up?
I think something that just kind of like popped onto my heart was like, it's never too late. Like, it's never too late to start building community, to be discipled, and to like bring missions into wherever you are and wherever you go. Because, like the Lord is in us. And so wherever we walk, like that's missions. Whoever we talk to, like that's missions. And so us being, the salt and the light wherever we go. So I think just an encouragement of like, it's never too late.
Wonderful. Thanks, Shane. And she's right.
Wow.
I did DTS in my mid to late 20s. So
yeah. Wow. That's you actually took the words out of my mouth, Jane, almost exactly. I was going to say, I think I'm 45. But that was kind of what I was going to say. It's not too late. And then whatever season you're in, with 3 young girls, wife together, now we have a 4th on the way, and we're here in the Tenderloin. It's not too late.
I don't know if you saw it, Stephen, but she had a thumbs up from Steve. Oh, what about you, Caitlin? Any last closing remarks or?
Yeah, I'm trying to narrow it in my head, because I could go on for quite a while, I think, about this topic. I think firstly, the 3 of us would probably all agree that like post DTS, so much has happened. Like the DTS kind of just feels like a catalyst to all of a sudden leaning into an even clearer calling and an even clearer idea of what God wants to do with you, specifically with and I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but like, I think DTS really allows you that space and time that is like refuge, like Stephen talked about, like that you don't necessarily realize you're entering, but there's this very generous, luxurious space and time you get to encounter Jesus and really hone in on like your giftings and calling. And so I think speaking from the perspective of someone out of it now, like so much has happened in the best way possible that I could never have predicted. And I'm very happy with where I've landed after DTS. And it's all been a surprise. But I mean, I think on top of that, I agree with both of all of those statements. And again, I want to reiterate that, like, regardless if you're planning on going into like traditional full-time missions, like a DTS is absolutely foundation building, and it helps, like, I think in general in your journey and walk with the Lord. It doesn't have to end in this very certain way, clearly. But I mean, I would also give a shout out for, like, I think doing a DTS in a city context is very different than, and I would absolutely recommend. I think the city is a very straightforward perspective of how the Spirit is actively moving and breathing and doing stuff, as well as like plenty of spiritual warfare. But I mean, I think if we're called to love our neighbors, irregardless if they agree with us or understand us, like, the city is such a prime spot to enact that and witness that happening. And yeah, I think it's a great space to really learn how to do life with the Spirit and with partners versus, you know, going on a retreat or going on a vacation, which, I mean, I think there's seasons for everything, right? So if you want to go in a DTS that feels more like a retreat, that's absolutely an option in another place. But San Francisco is really where you get to enact it in real time. And I think I will always be in favor of doing a DTS in a large city.
And we didn't pay Caitlin to say any of that, so that just came off the cuff. So thank you, Caitlin, for sharing. It's so great because it kind of segues into just a few announcements that we have. So we actually have a DTS starting September 20th. So it's actually right around the corner, which I'm really excited about. We've been praying and planning as a DTS department for this next DTS, again, starting September 20th. You can still apply if you are interested. I think they're going to put the link to our YWAM San Francisco DTS webpage on our website, so you guys can take a look at it. And they might also put, I think, the DTS email in there. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So the DTS at ywamsanfrancisco.org. So if you're interested in knowing more, you can just shoot us an email and we'll get back to you. We can answer, more questions in depth that you may have. And we're also wanting to invite you, my friends, to do hot chocolate with us. So I'll give a quick snippet. Every other week, so 2 times a month, we're doing hot chocolate from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We are going out on the streets of the Tenderloin. We are talking with people, praying with people, handing out cups of hot chocolate to our neighbors out on the streets. It's one of my favorite ministries here because no matter how bad of a day I may have had, or no matter how busy my day was, being able to go out and actually have conversation, to pray with people, to serve others, it just does something to you. I think we can all agree that it just does something to you, no matter how bad of a day you've had, just being able to go out and at the same time be ministered to as you go out and are ministering to others. So we want to invite you to sign up for hot chocolate. There's a link there that you can look, that you can click on, and we'll be in contact with you if that's something that you're interested in. You can do it by yourself. You can bring people with you. We usually have local churches and local communities that come and serve hot chocolate. And so would love to invite you to do that. You can also sign up for our newsletter. So if you want to be in the know and hear all the happenings on what's going on here at YWAM San Francisco with the various ministries and the various places and spaces that we're serving, you can sign up to receive our newsletters, and it'll keep you updated on what's going on here. And then another thing that I'm super, super pumped about is we are getting ready to, getting ready as in, ramping up to host our first person event coming out of COVID here at YWAM San Francisco. So we're really pumped and really excited for that. And so that's happening July 23rd. And so a very near and dear friend of mine, Stephen Binquist, actually will be sharing about neighborhood ministry and how to minister and what is the gospel of the poor, and talking to us as a community about what is the gospel of the poor. And so I want to encourage you to, again, think about signing up for that and attending with us. And I think that the tickets are releasing soon. I don't know if there's a link. It's already there. Look at that, man, on top of it. So there's the link. If you're interested in knowing more about that, again, I highly recommend it, not just because Steve's my friend, but because he has a real passion to share Jesus and to do it in a way that everybody understands. Okay, this is not for a certain group of people. It's for everyone. So what is that? What does the gospel of the poor look like? And so I'm actually really looking forward to that. So I'm actually going to ask my friend who's sitting next to me to close us in prayer. And then again, if you guys want to hang out, we totally can, and we can answer more questions. If you got to go, that's totally fine as well. But I just want to let you know that we're available to answer questions. We just want to do our best to make sure we're honoring everybody's time because we're all on different time zones. So wonderful. So I'm going to have Steve close us in prayer.
Jesus, we thank you so much for who you are. We thank you for your presence, God, that you desire people to know you. God, you desire people to know your heart, to know your grace and your mercy and your love. We thank you for the gift that is DTS and the tool that it is in the kingdom. We pray that you would bless these ones who have shared today, God, and that you would continue to expand what is happening in the Bay Area and beyond in your kingdom. In your good name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Again, friends, thank you so much again for joining us today. And again, we're going to hang out, so we're not going anywhere, but feel free if you need to